President Biden taking one day out of his second vacation this month to visit fire-ravaged Hawaii. He is set to touch down soon after facing intense criticism for dismissing questions about his administration's response during his first getaway at the beach just 2 weeks ago. Then the White House dodging on details on how Biden is spending those days off.
I can't shed any light on how he's spending some valuable quality family time out here, but certainly he's been engaged on a daily basis in confronting some of these extreme events we're seeing.
The death toll in Maui rising to 114 people, with over 850 still missing. The cause is still unknown, while video suggests downed power lines could have started the fires. That's not stopping Hawaii's governor from insisting it was climate change to blame.
So just to be clear, when you're talking about global warming, are you saying that climate change amplified the cost of human error?
Yes, it did. There's no excuses to ever be made, but there are finite resources sometimes in the moment.
And now there's new scrutiny after an official waited more than 5 hours to release water during the fires. That same official giving this guidance last year on how to distribute water equitably on the island.
Let water connect us and not divide us. Like we can share it, but it requires true conversations about equity. How do we leave it better, live, coexist with the resources that we have?
That official has now been transferred to another position. And just one thing, if we could play the soundbite from the Maui resident who's just upset about where the president has been.
It's really affected me because where's the president? Aren't we Americans too? Like, we're part of the United States, but why are we getting put in the back pocket? Why are we being ignored? Come to War Memorial and see the people there laying out in cots and see how he feels.
Jesse Waters, glad to have you here. What do you make of all of this?
Joe Biden's the only person that spends more time on vacation than I do. And it took him 5 days to address the deadliest wildfires in modern American history. Took him 6 days to address the Afghanistan evacuation. Again, he was on vacation for both. He had to be dragged kicking and screaming to Maui. He didn't want to go out and talk to the press about it because the press is going to ask him about Hunter Biden. So he doesn't even want an investigation into what caused these fires, and we know why. It's because there was incompetence all over this state. Sirens were not activated. This guy wants to share water with everybody except the fire. I'd share all the water with the fire. And then so they asked this Pharaoh farmer, this indigenous Hawaiian, hey, do you mind if we share some of this water with the fire department, or do you need it for your Pharaoh? That, I think, was a 5-hour lapse when they could have gotten the water out there. This used to be an agricultural powerhouse, Hawaii. And then all of a sudden it became a tourist trap. And so they let all of these non-native grass species just go completely wild all over the island, completely mismanaged. And now the place is scorched. The power company doesn't spend a dime trying to clean up the underbrush for all the fallen power lines to catch fire to. And Biden comes out and the media comes out and they're going to blame global warming, Dana. And talk about leading the witness. Did you see the woman from CBS say, what you're saying is there's some dumb people in Hawaii managing this, but it's probably the fault of big oil, right? That's what we're doing here, because you can blame your incompetence on global warming, but global warming doesn't get to respond to that. And everybody now just talks about global warming instead of all the massive screw-ups that have taken place on this poor island.
What about a global warming pass, Harold?
So I'm glad you're back. A couple of things. When you have a catastrophe or you have a disaster like this, and we remember when the shooting happened, the young shooter in Uvalde, and the police showed up, and we got a bunch of conflicting stories, and we finally learned that it was incompetence, gross incompetence on the part of some, and even a lack of training. I don't know what they were doing there, but I think the focus on, even in that issue, the guns was the wrong thing at the outset. You've got to rescue, you've got to recover, and you've got to rebuild. And as a part of it, and as that goes on, you figure out the things that you could be doing very differently or could have been done very differently. There are obviously serious shortcomings and dysfunctions that happened throughout this. I would caution everybody, whatever agendas one may have, show some restraint. Let's figure out, number one, have we recovered everyone? They're estimating there are another 1,000 people that may be stranded still. They may have not recovered. Two, let's figure out if something were to happen tomorrow, what have we learned from this to ensure that we don't have the type of human error that occurred this go around here? And finally, as it relates to other things, be it climate change or whatever the issues may be, let's deal with that last. We still got a lot of destruction and catastrophe. In defense of the president, I thought it was wrong at times when Democrats went after President Bush, when Democrats would go after President Trump, even after the COVID. I mean, there are things presidents should or should not do. I don't think the president should have visited here until now. Where I agree with those who have been critical, I was surprised the president didn't show more empathy, at least in his public statements about this. But he will visit. He and the First Lady will visit, and hopefully they won't take away from resources that have been dedicated to trying to find even those that are still stranded.
Judge, I'll just mention this and then, of course, comment on whatever you want. But the governor said that more than 1,800 people who lost their homes, they're having to live in hotel rooms for the foreseeable future. That could be quite a long time.
Yeah. The truth is, Dana, that when you look at the destruction and the path of harm, there's very little that they can do to put this back together in a matter of even months. I mean, they've got to find bodies. They're going to do everything they can to find whatever DNA they can find, but everything is charred. I mean, we're talking about like a World Trade Center here. Everything is charred. It's all a forensic analysis. But, you know, it is so disappointing. And you could say, well, the president should have been there last week, or this is the perfect time. All I can tell you is this. The president would not have been criticized had he shown any empathy when he was asked while on vacation yet again in Delaware, you know, what do you think of the rising number of the deceased in Maui? And he goes, no comment. I mean, it's not like he didn't hear it. He is cold. He doesn't care. But what's more significant is he said to the people in Palestine, Ohio, I will go to Palestine. He promised to go there. That was 7 months ago. He never showed up. All right. And finally, let me just say that, you know, apparently the water could have been used to help fight the fires, but it wasn't diverted from local streams into the reservoirs, which were dry at the time of the fire. That means that the people in charge at the time were lazy or incompetent. Just like Uvalde we talked about. People have got to get their game up. This guy, I didn't turn the sirens on because people would run up to the flames. Are you stupid? No, they're going to run to the water. Right. Stop with the excuses.
Greg Gutfeld.
Yeah, I think, you know, if 9/11 happened today, the media would blame climate change. If Pearl Harbor happened, they would call it gun violence. So that's the world that we live in right now. Though this, to me, is like the quietest tragedy ever. Isn't it strange how quiet everything is? And in this case, no news is probably bad news. You don't hear from families of tourists because maybe it's not tourists that are still dead. You know, silence from the locals because maybe they're gone. And then the officials don't say anything because this is possibly worse than anybody imagines. You're not going to see anybody. And it's kind of scary who these people might be, right? They might not be adults. And I think that this is a really horrible tragedy. And I hope people learn that evil isn't some guy with a twirly mustache, you know, tying helpless women to train tracks. Often it's a non-thinking, unbending mind that's inherent to an ideology. If this is true about this guy and the 5-hour delay of water, he should never walk this earth safely again. If he held the water back while these people burned alive and he thought, well, you need water, but you should appreciate the greater goal of equity. That's despicable. I don't believe it. I can't believe somebody would actually delay water for 5 hours. But then again, we've seen the ideology of equity show up everywhere. You know, we're told that it's not about where you start, it's where you end up, and everybody has to be the same. So while I understand that you might need water to be safe, there are other people, local farmers, that deserve that water too. If that was actually the conversation, God help that person, because that's just disgusting. Again, we all become experts when these tragedies happen. But the one thing I'm pretty clear on with ideology is that they always put it before people. And you end up in situations like this where they justify the death of others. The saddest part about this is there's no noise. It's just quiet. And I'm wondering why, you know, anyway.
Okay, so the president's on the ground there now, so we'll keep you updated as that takes place. They're about 5 or 6 hours behind us.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.